Hey guys, we're back again with another RPG Horror Stories video. Why not? See what's been going on in the D&D community and the general TTRPG community whilst I've been away and rather unwell. If you're wondering to do with other videos such as the D&D Villains series, I am still working on the last video for that. I'm working on some other general content. It will be coming hopefully next week, so don't worry about that. This is just a simple in-between, something that I can enjoy looking through these stories and commenting with you. But let's get straight into it. I haven't had a single turn in combat in 5 months. This one is still ongoing, but it's got to the point where it's not being funny a while ago. Not a full-on horror experience, but one of the most frustrating things that I've experienced. This was a Pathfinder 1E campaign, just keep that in mind. I mean, personally for me, I would consider that a nightmare experience. Not getting to do combat, an active part of the game, for 5 months is pretty bad, but let's see what they say. So around 2.5 years ago, I joined an already started campaign. As a substitute for another player, being the newest member, I decided to adapt and fill whatever role the party needed. And most of them were frontline, tanks, an Inquisitor, Fighter, Paladin. Since the setting was not a gritty Game of Thrones low magic one, I asked if it was okay if I made a glass cannon spellcaster. The DM liked it, the party liked it, so I got to work. Now, saying the campaign was homebrew heavy would be an understatement. I'm not talking about hybrid or alternative classes, but more flavour of what Valda and Kibbles provide for D&D. I was not comfortable with the system yet, so I asked if it was going to be an issue if I played a raw build. The DM said perfectly fine. Those classes were just flavour in case someone wanted to try something else, but not a requirement. Fast forward to our first fight, and I am rocking less than half of the HP of the rest of the party, but I should be fine, as long as I know how to position my character, right? Wrong. Every single enemy will either spawn in combat right next to me, risk multiple opportunity attacks just to down me, or the funniest example, the enemy will just so happen to be hiding on the ceiling and drop right on top of me, downing me before we've rolled initiative. It got to the point where they would stand there, wait for someone to heal me so that they could down me again. They were not single enemy fights, and most of them would rock 10 to 20 enemies plus a gimmick, so that meant that every time my turn was skipped in depth saving throws, a good hour/hour and a half would pass before it was my turn to roll a depth saving throw. Okay, no matter what the DM says about this, regardless, this is not okay. This is just pretty much bullying the player, presumably for playing a spellcaster. There is no way that multiple groups of enemies know that you're a spellcaster immediately, have planned to be above you specifically, or always attack you. It just doesn't make combat sense for the in-character of these creatures. If you're fighting a horde of goblins, and the goblins decide that rather than killing the knights and the inquisitors and such that are there fighting them, they'll wait to poke the wizard, not just when they're down, but when they get back up. The fact that they're not killing you when you're down doesn't really make any sense for the creatures. Surely if you're such a big horrible thing, they will act to immediately kill you, but they're not. Instead, they're just repeatedly downing you, which to me implies that it's just the DM. It's the DM making sure they don't have to deal with a spellcaster in this fight, which just, come on man, you said they could play a spellcaster, why are you doing this? It started to dawn on me why every single player had a build that put them on 3 digits of HP. When I asked my DM about the focus that I was getting as a spellcaster, they responded with, well, the enemy can see that you're a spellcaster, and they prioritise the person that can kill a lot of them easily, which is fair, but it still didn't sit well with me. I brought up that I was not having fun, and that maybe I should create a new character that filled the battle mechanics better, but they said that I was filling a necessary niche, and I was just unlucky. Inquisitor and I started keeping notes as a joke of how many spells I'd cast in combat, and we noticed that last session, that the last time I did anything was on June 1st, thanks to a surprise round, and I had been eating dust ever since. I don't plan on leaving the group, because they are my friend group, and TTRPGs are, honestly, the only time that we can hang out together monthly without work or life being in the way. But it's hard to not astral project to a better game when combat rolls around, to be honest. Okay, I have to say, this is nonsense. How are you filling a needed niche if you're permanently downed? You get to cast a spell once in a few months. What niche are you fulfilling? The punching bag? This is nonsense. This is ridiculous. This here isn't a failing of the game. some people said in the comments that Pathfinder 1 is a little bit unbalanced at times. This is straight up nothing to do with the system. This is the DM is just throwing ridiculous combat scenarios at the player. Why would creatures be lurking on the ceiling and waiting just for the spellcaster they've never met to jump down on them? It makes no sense. This is a scenario where I think you need to speak to the DM again in a more stern manner and just say that you really aren't having fun, and that this honestly is something the other players have noticed. Call out that you haven't been able to cast a spell since June 1st, and bring people like the Inquisitor in to agree with you. Ask other players how they feel. This is honestly insane. To me, I would be asking the other players to see if they've noticed what has happened to me, because if I was playing a game and someone had barely done anything for 5 months, I would probably start to feel a little bad. I would be trying to support them, as I feel in some way the Inquisitor is, at least jokingly. I have games as a DM and player where one of my allies rolls poorly rounds and rounds in a row, and at low level that really sucks, and I feel bad. I want to try and propel them. I want to try and make them do more in combat. I want to make them feel like a hero, because they've just had 3 to 4 turns of roll, miss, roll, miss, roll, miss. Let alone this. This is insane. Reading through the comments on this, the OP has basically gone in to say that the roleplay is really fun, they enjoy the party, obviously they are very good friends, and the Inquisitor apparently is the partner that they have met, and so they're really attached to this group. They don't want to leave. But I do have to say, as some people are kind of going on about you should roll a tougher character and all this, I don't think that a tougher character really matters. He's being hard focused by creatures immediately that will run through the entire front line just to get to him. It's not a matter of, well, the character you're playing is just too squishy to exist. It's a matter of the DM is hard focusing you, and I think that even if you rolled a tougher character, as you've been talking about, a cleric or a paladin, I think they'll still move to kill you. I don't think it will matter. Ultimately, there's a lot of talk of you can do this, you can do that, there are these problems I have with this class, I might try this class, and really to me it comes down to there is nothing that you can do to fix this character. This is on the DM, and you should speak to your partner, you should speak to the other players in the group, and come forward to talk to the DM and basically say, look, what you've done is put me in an unwinnable situation. It doesn't matter that I'm supposedly filling a niche as an AoE spellcaster, because I don't get to cast any spells. You can play these other classes and maybe that might improve it somewhat. Maybe you'll manage to survive the first round of the onslaught and actually cast a spell. Hell, maybe you'll be able to heal yourself and you'll just be the new tank, hitting yourself one turn as you take the hits of 5 different goblin characters next turn. However, I don't see a way out of this. You need to talk to the DM and just see what can happen. Maybe having a frank discussion with other players there, they'll realise that they are over-focusing you and ruining the game for you. But to me, this feels like a situation of, if it doesn't improve, either you have to suck it up and basically just tune out every combat because you are not going to be playing it, or just leave. And I'm not saying that you should leave your TTRPG friends. I think you should involve them in something else. You should play other games, play board games, try and have someone else DM. Try and just meet them up and do something else. Don't give up these friends that you clearly value, but this game is not going to work for you, unfortunately. But with that, we'll move into the next story and see how that one goes. D&D player threatens to sue the DM over a character death. Oh, good grief. So, I play D&D at a local game shop that is kind of shitty. Not the story itself is bad, but the element is. I can't tell you how many murder hobos, a word I can't say, and general shitty players that I deal with. But it is the only game shop in the area, so I just kind of bounce from games or kick people when things get too fucked up. That, and I kind of have built up a tolerance. But this one guy takes the cake. We were playing a campaign years ago. I was a Dragon Ball Druid, and that guy was a Tiefling Barbarian, and our DM, paid DM, was running a Dark Souls / Elden Ring-esque campaign with more roleplay. Oh, how relevant. Like, we lived in a castle with a lord who would send us on missions to help the battered towns in the area from the various monsters, demons, and magic-wielding warlords that would ravage them. I feel like this is probably the best time in one of these videos that I'm going to say that if you like Elden Ring, you can go and check out my Patreon to see a whole free section of Elden Ring monsters, bosses, and various creations that I've made in the past, so that you can bring Elden Ring into your 5e games. Now, back to the story. That guy was not the sharpest tool in the shed, let's say. He was constantly assuming NPCs were out to get him, or secret spies, or whatever, and he would kill them or mouth off accidentally to reveal secrets and screw up our mission, and potential allies in the campaign were in short supply, so his behaviour often isolated us. He also argued with the DM a lot and accused him of trying to kill the party or railroad us because encounters were tough. He also got mad when the DM stopped him from R-wording a dying NPC who had tried to assassinate the party. He said, "Oh, he can kill us, but I can't give him a taste of his own medicine, and I am paying for this game, so why do you keep trying to control my actions?" This led to another back and forth about railroading. Okay, I have to interject and say that, hey, I love Dark Worlds, I love Elden Ring and Dark Souls, I love Berserk, but my guy, it seems like you are doing all of this in a public setting, in a game shop. That is not appropriate. No matter how much you're paying the DM for, they do not have to sit there and let you sexually assault their characters. No matter how much of a dick they've been, okay? Move on, get over it. If that is what ruins your D&D game for you, if that's railroading, then maybe you should be playing another game, because holy hell, that is just... that is crazy. I would have kicked them for that. The final straw was when he died after a particularly brutal confrontation with a particularly nasty undead, spellcasting warlord character, who we had heard horror stories about. The rest of us fled after he died, and he began summoning back up in a fight that we were already losing. He was livid. He accused the DM of targeted harassment and being unfair. The DM told him that he could just roll a new character and that death was part of D&D, which it is. Then that guy said, "I'm paying you $20 for a session, just for it to all be for nothing? Hell no, I want my money back." The DM refused, and the guy kept yelling, so the DM offered him a refund on this session so he could back the campaign, but he said, "No, I want my entire campaign's worth of money back." The DM looked at him like he was crazy and said, "You've paid for hundreds of dollars worth of sessions and used them. Hell no, you're not getting the money back." And the guy said, "Well, you've basically ripped me off. It's false advertising and fraud." This went back and forth until he said, "Fine, I'm going to tell the store owner." And the store owner, who had seen him play now multiple sessions with the DM, just laughed in his face. So he said, "Okay DM, let's see how you like losing everything. You'll be hearing from my lawyer." He then stormed out, and we've never heard anything from him or any lawyer ever. How typical it is that a player that wants to deal out such horrible punishments on random NPCs can't take it when his character dies. It's so predictable, I'm just genuinely not surprised, and that he would then throw a tantrum because his character died. You don't know that this is losing everything. You're still part of the narrative, there's still a story. If you had actually engaged with the world, you would know that you haven't lost everything. But then again, this guy sees enemies everywhere, thinks that the story is all about him and that everyone wants to kill him or stop him from progressing. So really, it's not a surprise, and the fact that he removed himself from the game is a blessing, honestly. It's a shame that the DM didn't remove him earlier, however this is kind of a fault in paid DMing. I'll always understand that paid DMs, it's difficult to remove that problem player if you feel that you can kind of deal with it. At the end of the day, he's giving you $20 every session. That is a fair amount of money, especially for someone who maybe is using this as a primary income, if they are. $20 a player, removing one of those players, if you have 4 players, that's a whole quarter of the income you're getting from this session, and you might not be able to recover it with another player, especially deep in a campaign. It's just a hard sell. So I understand that it took this long, though it's unfortunate because really the final straw should have been long ago. This guy has been a general nuisance, probably ruined other people's experiences, and on the whole done a whole helping of things that are just unacceptable in a private game alone, let alone in public. I'm surprised the store owner didn't step in, as they'd apparently been watching this game before. It's very absurd to me that they didn't say anything. The fact that this guy had spent hundreds of dollars really kind of cements, in my opinion, why this campaign had kept going with this guy. He kept paying, and unfortunately that's just enough reason for a DM that's a paid DM to keep them around. I really think this guy should have gone ages ago. This is again only the stuff that you've decided to tell us that they did. There's probably a whole litany of things which hey, might not have been anywhere near as bad as some of the stuff that you said, but keep piling on and on and on until the apparent final straw, which honestly, the final straw is whatever. If they had just complained about dying, it would be probably the most typical RPG horror story ever, but the fact that they then blow up about suing you and want all their money back, it just shows what a bad character this person is, how generally useless it is to keep them around. They are not going to be reasonable. Would I could give any kind of valuable advice of this, but really my advice is, when it comes to playing in paid DM games, just be careful about the DM. If you start experiencing players who are bad and ruining your experience, I would speak to the DM, and if they don't make any moves to change anything about it, it's time to start valuing whether the dollar amount that you're giving them is worth the just general game ruining scenario. At the end of the day, you are a player in a game in which you are paying for the experience. If the other guy is ruining it, being generally abrasive and doing horrific things to other NPCs in this game or enemies, then maybe it's time to take back those $20 and consider putting them elsewhere or joining another game. But that's the video for this weekend, guys. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the stories, and I will see you again in the next video. If you want to support me, please like, please comment. Everything helps with the algorithm, and I'm glad to be back making videos again. Hopefully there won't be another drought. I am really severely hoping that I don't get sick like that again for a long time, but you know, you can never really know. In that instance, if you want to support me even further, you can see my Patreon down below where I make D&D content, Elden Ring, battle maps, and I'm even working on blood magic as a kind of additional aside in the future, which will hopefully be out in the next month or so, and I'll definitely make a video here to talk about it when it is done. But thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.